This video is kindly sponsored by Elements Landscape Photography magazine. Stick around to see how you can get 15% off a yearly subscription. After 2 years, I am finally back in one of the most spectacular parts of the world, the Dolomites. The Dolomites is a mountain range in northern Italy, and with its immense network of trails, viewpoints and dramatic mountains, it is one of the most popular landscape photography destinations in the world. I've been super excited to return as we plan to visit a few new locations on this tour. With only a couple of lenses to cover the entire landscape photography journey, the newly released super zoom Sigma 20 to 200mm and my ultra wide angle zoom, the Sony 12 to 24mm f4, in combination with my Sony 14mm f1.8 for the hopes of some night photography, this cinematic landscape photography journey delivered some of the best photos of the Dolomites I've ever captured. Like a couple of years ago, the group started out at the characteristic Passo Giau, where you can get a beautiful reflection photo of the mountain in this small puddle. Throughout the afternoon and evening, we had some beautiful clouds caressing the peak and light breaking through, creating some great opportunities for some incredible photos. Besides the little puddle, there are also other mountains and other foregrounds that you can use. A great and beautiful start to the tour. So, good morning from the Dolomites, back here in these epic mountains. Right now I'm photographing the scene right here behind me, where I have a few different larch trees, some pine trees, some layers with the fog up towards the hill here in the background. I'm currently using the Sigma 20 to 200mm, fantastic lens, it just covers such a big range. And with the Sony A7 R5, it's super easy to just handhold it. We have so much light by now that handholding it, the image stabilization just takes care of everything. There's no image stabilization in the Sigma lens, so it's up to the camera how good the image stabilization is. So another view we are also photographing this morning is towards the mountain here in the background. And what I'm looking at are trees like the one here in the background and down here, and simply just including those in the foreground. And then I'm simply just waiting for the light to break out and light up this entire mountain and the low clouds, the fog surrounding the mountains. Again, the Sigma 20 to 200mm f11 ISO 100 gives me a shutter speed of about 1/250th of a second, so again super easy to handhold. Compositionally, it's simply just a question about finding these trees and either use them as framing or trying to distribute them in relation to the mountain in the background so you achieve a good balanced photo. As with the release of this video, we are entering autumn and the high season for landscape photography. So if you are in lack of inspiration, I can highly recommend Elements Landscape Photography magazine. It is a digital magazine with a huge emphasis on the fine art aspects of landscape photography. Their latest issue is dedicated to autumn photography and has several super interesting interviews with different photographers. I especially enjoyed the one with Andrew Milczynski, whose photos are just works of art upon works of art. Throughout the many magazines, there is a segment called How It Was Shot, where a photographer explains a photo from their collection. In this issue, it's this beautiful photo from Simon Baxter. Each December, a special issue is released with a unique theme, like image processing. In issue 22, where photographers like Rachel Talibard, Charles Kramer, and Sarah Marino share the techniques, or in issue 10, focusing on black and white photography with Michael Kenner, Bruce Barnbaum, and Evan Russell, the curator at the Ansel Adams Gallery in Yosemite. What I especially love about Elements Landscape Photography magazine is the minimal design giving the photos room to breathe, so that they can stand on their own merit. And although not all photos are like my personal style, it always gives me a huge amount of inspiration to not just do my epic photos. And this upcoming December, there will be a special issue all about minimalist photography featuring, among others, Bruce Percy. The annual subscription is only $99, but with my coupon code down in the description of the video, you can get 15% off and get access to the current issue, the next 12 issues, special issues, and all prior issues. Yes, you heard that right. A big recommendation from me and Peter Pixels and many other readers of the magazine. Be sure to use the coupon code and link down in the description of the video. So we have arrived to the epic Tre Cime here in the Dolomites in Italy. And I'm quite excited because we are going to a place that I've never photographed before. On this workshop we're doing like 3 nights in these mountains. So we have more time to go and explore and photograph some of the locations that we usually cannot cover when we only have 2 nights here. And right now we're going to some lakes where we can hopefully get a reflection of those beautiful mountains. We made it to the backside of Tre Cime, as you can see here in the background. Stunning view. I've actually never photographed them this up close before from this angle, and we have found the lake. So we've just put on all our most wide angle lenses. Even at 12mm, I need to make like vertical panoramas to get the entire mountain range in the shot, including the reflection here in the water. Another thing when it comes to the reflection is that we really need to go down low, get really close to the water, and then we can take the shot. But besides that, it's just like f11, ISO 100, and it gives a shutter speed of whatever, 100th-ish of a second. And with image stabilization on, it's not that big of a deal getting the photo. And of course, just stitch it in Camera Raw or Lightroom and done deal. We made sure to arrive early at this location to benefit from the shifting cloud cover. We got both super low clouds that covered the mountains, hail, a lot of hail, thunder, and just before sunset we got a bit of light breaking through, lighting up parts of the mountain. As you know, I love my moody and dramatic photos, but let me know down in the comments which one of these 2 photos you prefer. The moody version or the one where the direct light lights up the mountains. We had a beautiful sunrise the following morning with some low clouds in the valley photographing towards the Cadini mountain range. Sadly, those clouds stayed too low in the valley during the sunrise and didn't move into a beneficial position. This meant that for my part I got exactly the same lighting conditions as I've already experienced a couple of times at this location, and therefore no new photos. If you want to see the photo I got a couple of years back, check out the video up in the corner. After breakfast we continued towards the second Refugio, and along the way as the temperature rose, the clouds also rose, and once we had reached the other Refugio, the clouds were in a perfect position. So after a beautiful morning we have made it on here to the second Refugio on our 3-night stay here at Tre Cime, which you can see up here behind me. Right now I'm photographing towards the mountains that we were photographing this morning, but what has happened over the morning is that a lot more low clouds are present around the mountains, so we get this beautiful foreground atmosphere that just carves out the mountains, so we have those standing out like as if they're in the clouds. So right now I'm just letting the camera take a photo every 10 seconds because the clouds are moving around quite fast and it just looks gorgeous. And then I can just choose which one of the photos I like the best. For this specific photo here, I've decided to zoom out a little bit because I don't know exactly what it is I'm going to do with it when I come back to post-processing. There's a lot of people walking on the ridge line down here and they work amazing for scale. However, I'm also sure that the photo will look great if I crop in a little bit and only have the mountains coming out of the clouds. I am also right now using the 20 to 200 millimeter, the Sigma 1, and I have my strap around here. There's no wind, so it's not catching the wind or anything, so all good. It's just so it wasn't in my way. And I'm shooting at f11, ISO 100, and that right now gives me a shutter speed of 1/320th of a second. But that in aperture priority, of course, differs a little bit, depending on how much fog and low clouds there are actually in the scene, which right now is almost total. So these photos have just turned out to be some of my favorite photos of the Cadini mountain range that I've ever captured. The perfect combination of atmosphere and epicness. This last photo did require a good amount of editing and especially time blending to put all the different layers of low clouds properly together. It's not too hard once you understand masking in Photoshop, then you can just mask in the parts you like as long as the layers are aligned down to the individual pixel. If you want to learn how to edit your photos, be sure to enroll in my huge 20+ hours and 30+ videos post-processing course. It is here I teach you all my techniques from the most basic and actually using the programs over masking, cleaning your photos, focus stacking, dodging and burning, adding and controlling glow and atmosphere, to advanced blending of several exposures with or without using luminosity masking. Be sure to use the discount code, which you can find down in the description of the video, along with a link to my ebooks on light and composition. So we are just standing here shooting, enjoying a radler, enjoying the fog, enjoying the mountains, enjoying life. Photography is good. It's a good hobby. You should do it. Try it out. We are right now on our way up to the evening shoot at the famous saddle shot here at Tre Cime in the Dolomites. We have split up the group, so I'm taking two of the participants. There's so little oxygen up here. I'm taking two of the participants, on the short but steep road up here, and Sam is taking the rest of the group on the slightly longer and slightly less steep route. Now, one thing that I have really noticed on this trip compared to the trip we made 2 years ago, and especially 3 years ago, is just how much it helps to be in shape, which I am right now. I have hardly sweated on this trip whatsoever. Okay, it's a little bit colder than the 2 other years. And the only reason why you can hear me like really breathe is basically because of the lack of oxygen. You can feel it when you are in 2,500 meters height compared to back home in Denmark at sea level. But yeah, wow, does it help to be in shape. So we made it up to the saddle, and as you can see I have my sunglasses on because we're shooting straight into the sun. So we have dark, moody, amazing clouds here, and from time to time we have the sun peeking out and just lighting up the foreground to get the most beautiful contrasty photos up here. Right now I'm shooting with my 12 to 24 millimeter and shoot around f16 because shooting at 12 everything is just like still too wide, so f16 is good for up here. And yeah, the sun is coming out again now. Ooh. 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 Wow. So right now, because the sun is still really sharp, we're not entirely in the golden hour just yet, at least the light is not golden. I'm shooting with a continuous bracketing, so auto exposure bracketing, with 5 images and 2 stops in between. It may be completely overkill, but I just want to be entirely sure. What I'm also doing is ISO 100 f13 to get a nice sun star, and then I'm underexposing the middle exposure by -3, so I get a really dark middle, or really dark, mainly underexposed photo. And then I still get a really bright, properly exposed photo. As of standing right here, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to put these photos together, whether I'm making an HDR photo in Lightroom or Camera Raw, or if I'm going to put them together with luminosity masks. But I'll see to that when I come back home at the computer. Woohoo! I love this moody and high contrast version of this perspective. Probably my favorite photo I've captured here. So it is morning and we have come to another place that I have not photographed before. We have Tre Cime up here in the background, and then we have our Refugio down here behind this hill. We have come to this field that is just full of these small standing stones that look really nice that we can use as a foreground. Right now we are having the first light, the Alpine glow on the mountains here in the background, as you can see, orange, beautiful. And I have found a composition right here. So just using these standing rocks to lead up to Tre Cime here. You can see we have like right there the very first glow. What I'm doing is I'm shooting at 12 millimeter, and I've just been moving the camera along the field of stone here just to find a few lines that I can use as a foreground, and then have the rest of the standing stones lead up to the mountains here in the background. I'm focus stacking this one using the focus bracketing of the camera, ISO 100 f11 to get a good overlap between the different brackets. And right now it gives me a shutter speed of 1/4 of a second. Just as the sun started hitting Tre Cime, it also went behind the mountain. So we actually had to wait like 20 minutes before we had enough light on the mountain for it to make a difference. Photographing during clear blue skies is one of the parts of landscape photography it seems many people are struggling with. The secret is simply to shoot while the light is soft, so around the blue or golden hour, and since you do not have any clouds, it's generally advisable to place yourself so that you have side or front light, at least in big vista scenes, and if you're in a forest or have vegetation that can capture the light, then backlighting is often preferable. That is just one of many things related to light I teach in my ebook all about light in landscape photography. With extended EXIF data, minimal text and tons of examples, it's super easy to read and I make sure to get to the point fast. Besides the types of light, I cover the light you can encounter throughout the day, the importance of color or lack thereof, the interaction between light and editing, and finish off with chapters where I share my thoughts on a bit deeper level. You can get this ebook either standalone or bundled up with my ebooks about composition and landscape photography. There is a link to all of them down in the description of the video. So we are on our way to Rifugio Lagazuoi, which is our last refugio here in the Tre Cime National Park. Right now we have the group on the lower trail and a few people up here on the upper trail. That's the trail I took 3 years ago, so if you've seen that video, I was walking like up here. Now we're on the lower trail. It's a little bit more elevation down and then back up, but it's easier. Let's just be honest about that. That said, it could actually have been fun to walk up there because it's just so much easier and I'm in so much less pain than I was 3 years ago. That was hard back then, but yeah, getting in shape. You'll be surprised about how big of a change it makes when you're out hiking. Once we arrived, we spent the day chilling in the sun, maybe a bit too much sun, enjoying some food and drinks and scouting the area while waiting for the light to get better. So we have made it to the famous and main view of Tre Cime, as you can see here in the background. I've been here a few times by now, so I'm trying to get something that I haven't photographed before. And the first shot I'm trying to get is one here in the background. So we have some layers down here and a ridge, which means that I'm of course going to put myself right there. And then I have the layers because they're like lit by the sun. The atmosphere is lit by the sun, and then me there in the foreground. So the setup is the Sigma 20-200 millimeter at f11 ISO 100, and then I'm just getting a somewhat fast shutter speed because I'm like shooting into the sun. I'm using the interval timer so that it just keeps taking photos while I'm running around in the scene. So I'm getting a few different poses, and then in the end I will just choose which one photo I like the best in post-processing. So it's super interesting to remember where you imagine yourself to stand when you walk into the scene. So I always try to like, oh, there's a cliff, or there's a stone, or there's a small tree. Remember that there's where you want to stand. So just going to that little cliff, get the camera to take a few photos, make a few different poses, and yeah, that should look really nice. I kept the backpack on just to keep that hiker adventure mood. So it's not just my silhouette, but there's actually a silhouette of a person being on location in these epic mountains. So I have just run up to the view up here where we have the Refugio here, a mountain here, mountains here, and I'm shooting with the wide angle. The good thing about the 20 to 200 millimeter is that you can cover like 20 to 200 millimeter. But instead of using my 16 to 35, as I've mentioned a few times, I brought my 12 to 24 millimeter. I'm not shooting all the way out at 12 right now. I've been doing that earlier. Right now I'm at around 18 millimeter for getting this shot here. And I'm probably going to crop it into a panorama with this beautiful sunset color right here. But it works really well. ISO 100, f9, 10, 11-ish. And that gives me right now a shutter speed of 1/25th of a second. And I'm just getting the last photo of the sunset, which is down here. So I just passed by this road today and saw that it creates fantastic leading line up towards Tre Cime. I don't know why I've never noticed that. I've been here like 3 times, but yeah, works really well in a vertical composition. Makes a little bit of like an S-bend up towards these beautiful mountains with the last light of the day. F11 ISO 100 right now gives me a shutter speed and aperture priority of 1/15th of a second. This one I'm actually also focus stacking because the foreground is a tiny bit soft. I put the 20 to 200 millimeter on again. I'm shooting at 28-ish millimeter, so I'm just getting like 3 exposures where it just focus stacks through the photo. Looks really nice. I cannot overstate how big of a game changer that 20 to 200 millimeter lens is. The fact that you can now cover 12 to 200 millimeter with only 2 and relatively light lenses, and even with overlap, is mind-blowing. I released the review of the Sigma 20 to 200 millimeter last week, and it seems some of you may have concluded that the corner sharpness wasn't perfect. And honestly, you can't really expect it to have the same sharpness as, let's say, a 24 to 70 millimeter. It is a super zoom after all. As I mentioned in the review, you will have to make huge prints, probably bigger than what you'd hang on your private walls, for it to be an issue. Here you can see the photos from this video that I've shown so far zoomed up close to the corners or the sides if there's no details in the corners. The part that is not perfectly sharp is just a tiny part of the entire frame in the wide end of the lens, and even there, if you stop down, you fix most of it. Just as is the case with my other super zoom lens, the Tamron 28 to 200. When I reviewed that about 4.5 years ago, I pointed out the exact same thing. So once I've received my own Sigma 20 to 200 millimeter, you will see me use that one much more.
Dinner time.
Yeah. We've come back up where I shot one of the shots before. This view right here, where we are now photographing the blue hour photo. And as it gets darker and darker, we will hopefully also be able to see the Milky Way come up. It should be like somewhat vertical-ish above Tre Cime here in the background. So we're going to take some blue hour photos and then the Milky Way photos. Maybe blend the Milky Way photo into the blue hour photo foreground so that we have texture in the mountains, in the Refugio here with the lights, and then also have the Milky Way Beautiful shot. I'm shooting at 14 millimeters, so I'm quite wide, a little bit wider than I would want to go, but I'm taking a lot of photos and then I'm going to stack those in post-processing to average out the noise. And wow, I've got a lot of sun today. Probably underestimated the sun a little bit. What a magical night, and wow, does it make the editing of the Milky Way so much easier when you don't have clouds and severe light pollution in the way as I have back home here in Denmark. After some sleep, it was time for sunrise. Arguably, this side of Tre Cime at this time of year benefits more from the sunset light, and with no clouds to capture any color from the sunrise, I decided to join Barry and go back up to the viewpoint, as I have never photographed sunrise from that angle, and from there benefit from the light being cast onto the landscape. Besides getting a photo straight on, both Barry and I also captured a beautiful panorama of the entire scene, just as the sun rose above the mountains. So we have arrived at Rifugio Lagazuoi, and as you can see, the sun is coming down here in the background, heading up to a viewpoint where I'm going to try to recreate a photo that I took 3 years ago, but I took that photo at sunrise. I want to do it now at sunset, which I think is more optimal because of how the light hits the background mountains. I actually think for the first time I may have a little bit of height sickness. It's usually not a thing I have here in the Dolomites, but I have felt not very good this afternoon. And walking a bit further up here, it just became worse. I came a little bit further back down, kind of got better. Weird. Yeah, so that turned out to be some kind of food poisoning. What a terrible night I was in for, but luckily it was largely through the system the following morning. But that's not holding me back from getting the photo. So the others are just up photographing out over the beautiful ridge here with the sun coming down, and they'll probably join me in a few minutes. But I can just explain you guys what it is I am doing. So my composition looks like this. Maybe you can recognize it from a few years back, and I'm basically just photographing out here. I'm going to stand on the edge right there, and then as the background mountains here becomes more and more red from the setting sun glow, it ought to look really, really fantastic. As with other kinds of these photos, I use my intervalometer, set it to, it probably takes me like 1 minute to get down there, so 1 minute, and then I have an interval of 6 seconds. So I can just move a little bit around and try a few different poses. So we have made it here to the last location of this trip, and we are ending with this beautiful mountain range, just as we have done the 2 other years where we've run this workshop. When it comes to the weather, you can see clear blue skies, but that is actually something that's really good, because then we can get those beautiful orange mountains. As you can see here in the background, we don't really have a whole lot of clouds, so hopefully we will get that beautiful last orange and red glow on the mountain peaks. We are also setting up, as you can see here, just along the shore and going down very low so that we can get that reflection shot. The ducks. The ducks. Yes, everyone who's been here knows about the ducks. Ducks are a bit annoying when you want to capture a clean reflection. However, with a bit of duck whispering and trying to draw them away with the promise of some food, we did manage to photograph around the worst ripples. So the light right now is just super cool because the sun went down behind a cloud and that cloud threw a shadow into the scene. So we just have like both shadow and light on the scene that just looks bonkersly good. Contrary to the other years, we got the best light during sunset, and the sunrise the next morning didn't yield a photo better than what we had already captured during sunset. If you want to learn much more about light, composition and editing, be sure to check out all my educational material. If you want some inspiration, make sure to get Elements Photography magazine. There are links to everything down in the description of the video. If you're interested in knowing more about the brand new Sigma 20 to 200mm super zoom lens, check out my in-depth video from last week where I also compare it to the Tamron 28 to 200mm. I hope you enjoyed this trip to the Dolomites and all the photos. See you next time.